Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Moonlight, starring Mahershala Ali, Janelle Monáe, and Naomi Harris, directed by Barry Jenkins. Now, I remember seeing this in theaters and thinking, this beat? Well, no. Before I get there, I liked the movie from what I remember, but did this have to beat La La Land at the best picture of the year in, what was it, 2016? I don't know if I believe Jimmy Kimmel, as honestly, I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel in general, as he's a terrible Oscar host, in my opinion. So we'll see if this is still as good as I remember. Let's get into the movie. Juan, played by an Oscar-winning performance by Mahershala Ali, is a Cuban drug dealer in Liberty City, Miami, as he finds a boy named Chiron getting chased by some bullying punk asses kids, and to only find him in an abandoned building while the punk asses throw some shit at Chiron until Juan comes in and helps Chiron out, while Chiron is skeptical of talking to Juan. But Juan is nice enough to drive Chiron to go to a place to eat, and versus going to his girlfriend Teresa's house, and meets Teresa, played by Janelle Monáe, and he spends the night with them for one night. And I really like and relate with Chiron and Juan, as Mahershala Ali is a tremendous actor, and Teresa, as she with Juan, helps Chiron out as a boy and gives him a place to stay from his emotionally abusive mother Paula, played by Naomi Harris. As Chiron eventually talks to Juan and Teresa, as he's shy as hell, and I really like the kid actor who plays Chiron. I like all three actors that play him, I'll say it best, as he was terrific in this performance. And Janelle Monáe is great in this movie as well. Juan brings Chiron home and sees Paula as she comes off like a bitch to Juan, while she was too overprotective of Chiron despite Juan helped him out. And Paula provokes Chiron from watching the TV ever again, and I don't like the character as she comes off abusive. Despite Naomi Harris does pull off a great performance, while we get a scene that sounds magnificent, while the cinematography is tremendous throughout the movie, as well as the scene where Chiron plays ball with his friend Kevin, as well as some other friends that aren't really Chiron's friends, but becomes friends with Kevin as he gives some advice about being something scary, like finding well the other kids pick on him. And he goes to Juan's place, and they go to the beach together. And these are great shots when Juan makes Chiron float in the water, not drown, but float, and teaches him to swim, and they have a fantastic relationship throughout. Juan takes Chiron home and just shuts the fucking door, and Paula just shuts the fucking door at Juan's face like she doesn't give a fuck, as we see Chiron at school with some other African American kids like him, until he gets back home and sees the fucking TV is gone. And I'm thinking, what kind of a parent is Paula? While pulling off this bullshit to begin with, only because he can't go home like she wants him to. As Chiron takes a bath with Juan, while Juan goes to his drug dealing neighborhood and sees Paula buying some weed from Juan's friend, and he sees Paula in the neighborhood while she smokes some weed and doesn't act like a responsible parent. And I'm thinking no shit. She needs to get some motherfucking help with the drugs, which she will get it later in life. She's buying from all over the fucking place, while we get some haunting shots of Paula yelling at Chiron, while the score worked for this movie. Chiron goes to Juan and Teresa's house to get comfortable, while Teresa wants to talk with Chiron, and Juan tries to comfort him, and Chiron confesses he hates his mother, while Teresa brings in some orange juice, and Chiron brings up what's a faggot. And Juan explains it's a word that makes gay people feel bad about themselves. And he asks if he's one, and Juan says he could be gay if he wanted to, but he'll know if he wants to. And he learns Juan sells drugs while Paula takes drugs, which is a devastating scene. because he's learning about the words you can't say at school while moving on 2 years later with Sharon as a teenager and gets picked on by some punk ass named Terrell while picking fights with Sharon and bumps into Kevin as he's got detention for inappropriate reasons I won't explain why, as the acting by these actors is very good, while director Barry Jenkins does a great job at telling a young African American story and telling it like he knows the neighborhood. And I think he might have. I'm not familiar with his outside life, I'll say it best. And he's an African American in real life. Paula tells Sharon he can't stay at the house tonight as she has company coming over as she goes to Teresa's house and has some dinner and can't make a bed and dreams of Kevin humping a woman, which is something he got a detention for earlier. As Sharon gets home the next day and looks for money around the house and tells him she needs money, as she doesn't explain why, as she tells him to mind his own damn business and steals some money from Sharon. And honestly, this bitch is crazy as fuck, as forces Sharon to go to school, and after school gets picked on by Terrell and his punk ass friend while going to a beach to get the fuck away from Paula, as she's on crack, and the screenplay is very good to listen to. Sharon gets to the beach, and Kevin happens to be there as well and hangs out together while they smoke some crack at the beach and eventually kiss each other. And the acting by these two actors is great as they have charisma with each other. And it works for the movie as Kevin drives Sharon home and sees Paula saying he doesn't love her no more as their mother and son. And next day at school, Sharon almost comes up to Kevin until Terrell comes up to him and tells him to play knockout, stay down. And this dialogue is tremendously written until we get to the next scene, which I'll bring up in the next segment. Sharon leaves school for the day until Terrell makes Kevin beat up on Sharon for being a gay man, and as he does and gets up nonstop until Terrell and his punk ass friends come in and continuously beat up Sharon while Sharon gets sent to the principal's office. And the principal wants Sharon to press charges as Sharon cries and says she doesn't know anything about what he's going through. And Sharon goes back to school and hits Terrell with a motherfucking chair, stool chair for that matter, and knocks that motherfucker's ass out and gets arrested for a bullshit reason as Kevin watches him go with the cops. And that was a fucked up way to end part 2 of the story as we do get to part 3 and Sharon as an adult in Atlanta as a drug dealer of his own and some metal on his teeth. And the editing in this is impressive as this is only an hour and 50 minutes long, and I never got bored with it as this movie is so far well made and well done, as this movie was a good coming of age story. Sharon gets a call from his mother Paula at nighttime and she leaves him a message and get another call from Kevin while he works at a restaurant as a cook and invites him to cook something for Sharon. While in the middle of the night, he dreams of Kevin smoking outside of his restaurant, and the next day he visits his mother Paula at the drug treatment center, and he admits that she feels remorse for his lack of empathy towards her as she tries to apologize to him and realizes she was a terrible mother to begin with. And Naomi Harris, like I said, pulls off a great performance. And I like Sharon as an adult as he was a very relatable character. Sharon goes back home to the restaurant Kevin works at and visits him, as well as Kevin cooking a chef's special for Sharon as at first he can't say 3 words and still acts a little shy around until Kevin makes him a chef special. And Sharon eats it as Kevin makes Sharon a drink and a little wine with him while Kevin is working. And this scene is well acted by these 2 actors, and there are some great shots in this restaurant in particular. Kevin has a wife very young with a woman he hooked up with at school named Samantha and have a kid named Kevin Jr. as they catch up with each other. And at one point Sharon asks Kevin, "Why did you call him?" And he explains Teresa gave him his number, while Sharon says he don't even know him, while he does and hasn't seen him in a decade. And he plays Sharon's favorite song on the jukebox, which is something Kevin remembers about Chiron, and Kevin closes for the night, and Chiron takes him home, and Kevin lets Chiron in his apartment to stay for one night. As Kevin lives near the beach he swam at many years ago. And Kevin asks what happened the last time he saw him, as Chiron doesn't want to remember it, as Kevin says he didn't want to beat up Chiron, as Chiron says to Kevin he was the only man who ever touched him, as he said he hasn't let anyone touch him since they touched each other that night at all those years ago. And we go back to him as a kid going to the beach water, and the climax was great. But was it Best Picture of the Year when it came out in 2016? Let's talk about it in a rating, shall we? I'll give this movie a 8.6 out of 10. I really like and relate with the characters except for Paula. Despite Naomi Harris pulls off a great performance, but Chiron was a great character to follow throughout, and Mahershala Ali delivers one of his two best performances along with Green Book. While we get a fantastic score that worked for this movie. Director Barry Jenkins does a great job at telling a story of a young African American story and telling it like he knows the neighborhood, as he's an African American in real life. And the screenplay is very good to listen to, and the acting by Chiron and Kevin is great, as these two have charisma with each other, and it works for this movie. The editing is impressive, as this is an hour and 50 minutes long, and I never got bored with it, as it's very well done and it's well made, as this movie was a good coming of age story, and this is a solid recommendation for this movie. But was it the best picture of the year of 2016? Not really, as I wish La La Land got it, as it did for like 30 seconds, but this was a very good movie at the end of the day. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this review, and until then, I don't know what to say next.